This is an overview of our writer this week, Joel Chandler Harris. There's a picture of him, and it comes from wikipedia.org. Here are some observations about the essays this week on Brer Rabbit and his stories and the stories that Joel Chandler Harris wrote. There were some good essays, but there were many weak essays this week. There was quite a dip in the quality of the work, and I'm not exactly sure what happened. The problem was that you did not mention the stories that you read. Remember, the writing prompt asked that you discuss Joel Chandler Harris's use of realism and local color. And the only way you could discuss that was by mentioning the 3 stories that I asked you to read. Remember that the essays are tests to prove that you have read the assignment. So you always refer to the reading selections for the week. Your essays are proving to me that you have read the assignment. There's no way around it. If you did not mention the stories in your essay, there's no proof that you have read what I've asked you to read for the week. Point 2. All of the essays have to have a beginning, middle, and end. Some of you seem to think that you cannot go beyond a page and a half. The page and a half recommendation, which is the minimum, is only a suggestion. It doesn't mean that once you get to that page and a half that you have completed the assignment. Remember, development is the driving force, and proof of comprehension is another driving force that proves that you have read and understand the assignment. You may do additional research to build on your understanding, but not as a way to find answers to the prompts. When you do that, you are diminishing your ability to think critically. Also, any additional research, you must give credit. I would prefer that you write the papers without doing any research. However, do not use the research as a substitute for your thinking. Point 3. You were supposed to establish characteristics of realism and local color from Donna Campbell's link and the video on realism and naturalism. Donna Campbell states, quote, "Local color and regional literature is fiction and poetry that focuses on the characters, dialect, customs, topography, and other features particular to a specific region," end quote. She establishes several key characteristics, and these are the characteristics that I wanted you to apply to the stories. The stories are set in a certain locale. Usually it's remote. Point 2. The characters who are typical of a particular district or region, they are quaint, they're stereotypical, they're interested in the old ways of doing things, they have peculiar personalities, and they speak in a dialect. This is certainly true of the stories that we have for this week. Point 3. The narrator is usually educated, an observer, sympathetic, keeps an ironic distance, and is a mediator between rural and urban audience. Now, this is what we have with the Brer Rabbit stories. It is in a rural environment. It is in the country. Point 4. Plots are thin. Not much happens. There is a reluctance to change. There is a nostalgia for the past. The past is a golden age. There is a conflict between country life and the city. The video that I asked you to watch, point 4, covers the same material, but the speaker mentions naturalism, which is actually a nice preview for Stephen Crane and other writers coming up. I particularly like his commentary and formula on fate. The formula is the character plus environment plus chance plus heredity plus what happens to the character equals destiny. Personal strength cannot overcome these external forces. In other words, the characters are basically victims. Look for this formula at work in upcoming stories. Point 5. All of the Brer Rabbit stories exhibit the characteristics in point number 2. Since you had to read and listen to 3, I'll focus on just 3 of the stories. Point 6. The creatures go to the barbecue. Brer Rabbit invites the creatures to go to a barbecue when there is no barbecue. So he is a trickster. He's constantly playing tricks, and then they have to get back at him. Walt Disney used these stories in his movie Song of the South. You might notice similarities between Brer Rabbit and Bugs Bunny. We see the same qualities in Brer Rabbit's frolic, where the creatures attempt to trick Brer Rabbit into thinking there is a party, and he will have to play the fiddle. Of course, there is no party. Once again, we see the typical setup. Uncle Remus telling a story to a young boy. There's a trick. He tries to get something over on the other animals, and they're usually humorous consequences. And also, all the stories are written in dialect. The dialect is so difficult at times, it's almost like reading a foreign language. That's why I ask you to listen to the stories and follow along in a text. So there's dialect, there's humor, and there's trickery. Brer Rabbit treats the creatures to a race. The same kind of thing happens. It's told in dialect. Uncle Remus tells the story. Brer Rabbit invites the creatures to a race. He fools them by taking a shortcut. Then the creatures sense he has cheated, and they engage in another race, chasing him. So that's what I was expecting you to do in your discussion this week. It was pretty straightforward and rather simple. Number 7. Almost every story is structured exactly the same. It is not difficult to see the characteristics at work. Some people have criticized the stories for being condescending and stereotypical. Today, the dialect is more like a foreign language. That's why I encourage you to follow along with the text as you listen to the stories. It is important to listen to the stories to get a sense of the oral tradition of storytelling. Finally, I want to emphasize my main point here. You always refer to the stories under discussion. Whatever the prompt, you use the stories to prove the point. So I'm looking forward to better essays next week. Good luck.